Delegations from Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo recently met in Luanda, Angola for a summit meant to address the ongoing tension between the two countries. The tension stems from a nearly 30-year military conflict involving the M23 rebel group and the Congolese army. At this meeting, Rwanda was represented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Olivier Nduhungirehe, while the DRC was represented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Terence Kakimba Wagner. One of the key resolutions from the meeting was a call for a ceasefire among the warring factions in the eastern DRC, set to be enforced on August 4, 2024. The announcement of the resolutions sparked significant debate, particularly regarding the demand for M23 to adhere to the ceasefire, despite not being invited to the discussions. Following the Luanda summit, Minister Nduhungirehe talked to IGIHE, addressing various questions including why M23 was not invited despite being a key party to the conflict.
This was the second ministerial meeting under the Rwanda process. The Rwanda process is a process not between warring parties in Eastern DRC, but a process between states, mainly the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda, under the mediation of Angola. Because, as you know, the relations between Rwanda and DRC have deteriorated because of this conflict in Eastern DRC. This conflict affects Rwanda, mainly because of the security threat caused by FDLR genocidaires who are still in Eastern DRC, who are not disarmed, who are even embedded in the Congolese army. This conflict affects Rwanda also because we have a humanitarian crisis. We have more than 100,000 Congolese refugees, mostly Kinyarwanda-speaking Congolese, and we want that this situation be addressed. And there are also the accusations, daily accusations of the Democratic Republic of Congo against Rwanda. So all of that have contributed to the deterioration of the relations between the two countries. This is why this idea of the Rwanda process came under the mediation of His Excellency Joao Lourenço, President of Angola. The ambition of this Luanda process is, of course, to ease tensions, to address the issues that have contributed to the crisis between the two countries. It's not to solve the crisis in itself, because there are so many issues between Congolese that are addressed in another process, which is the Nairobi process, led by the East African Community under the leadership of former Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta. It's this process with its two tracks. There's a political track, dialogue between the Congolese government and the Congolese armed groups, and also a military track with the deployment of the EAC regional force, which was actually successful on the ground because it achieved ceasefire for 6 months from March to September 2023, with the withdrawal of the M23 from 80% of the territories it had conquered. So there is that track of Nairobi, that process of Nairobi that needs to be supported by this Luanda process. So it is a process between states. It is not a process between warring parties in Eastern DRC. This is why the M23 and other groups were not present in Rwanda.
The deliberations in Luanda were welcomed by various organizations, countries, and individuals who urged for their implementation to resolve peace in Eastern DRC. However, the statement released by the United Nations Stabilization Mission in the DRC rubbed Rwanda the wrong way. Instead of mentioning the ceasefire between the warring factions in the DRC, MONUSCO stated that the ceasefire requested in Luanda was between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Minister Nduhungirehe shared his stance on this statement.
That statement of MONUSCO was wrong and misleading because the statement claimed that the presidency of Angola announced a ceasefire between DRC and Rwanda, which is not the case. The outcome document is there. We have agreed on a ceasefire between the warring parties in Eastern DRC, which will be monitored by an ad hoc mechanism reinforced by intelligence officers. And it was important for me, of course, to rectify that, to correct that misleading statement. And I added that for those international actors who want to contribute positively to the sustainable solution to the crisis in Eastern DRC, they should be careful with the word they choose in their statements, because this is not a ceasefire between Rwanda and DRC, because we are not in conflict. This is a ceasefire between the warring parties in Eastern DRC.
This marks the second time that Nduhungirehe, as Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs, has met with Congolese representatives to resolve the long-standing tension between the two countries. As a key participant in these discussions, we asked him whether the behavior of the Congolese representatives gives hope for resolving the long-standing issues, considering that DRC often attends such talks but later denies the agreements in the media.
We indeed met twice with Congolese ministers, first in Zanzibar in early July during the ministerial retreat of partner states, of the eight partner states, ministers of foreign affairs and ministers of East African affairs. And during that meeting, this is actually when we agreed with the Congolese vice minister that we should meet at the earliest under the Luanda process. This is where the meeting of Luanda came from, because following that retreat, we contacted the mediator to arrange that meeting. And in Zanzibar, of course, the exchanges between the two countries were frank, but it was in a cordial atmosphere, and then we managed to reach some sort of agreement, mainly on the principle of a meeting. So we have a frank exchange in Zanzibar, and the same happened again in Rwanda. We exchange. Every country has its own grievances, claims, but at the end, we had a constructive spirit to reach an agreement, a consensus, mainly on the ceasefire, on the operationalization of the plan to neutralize the FDLR, and also on the disengagement of forces. So it was positive, and it gives us maybe hope that we could reach something, but we need to be clear that negotiating, even in a cordial atmosphere, or even signing an agreement, but it's not enough. It's not enough. The most important thing is to implement the agreement, because since the end of the war, Congolese wars in 1999, there was that Lusaka ceasefire agreement. From that Lusaka ceasefire agreement up to now, we have 9 agreements and processes. Most of them were not implemented, and most of them were calling on the DRC side to neutralize the FDLR. So what is most important now is to implement what we have agreed on, especially with that Rwanda agreement, starting with a ceasefire, and also to work on an actionable plan to neutralize the FDLR, and then to work on a disengagement of forces.